This is Unquiet Dead, and you're listening to VK Online News, the darker side of music. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, all night creatures and beyond. My name is Jason. I'm the guitarist and part songwriter for industrial rock hybrid, Unquiet Dead. Other half is Laura Mays. Unfortunately, she can't make it today because she is on holiday, but I will take the reins.
That's brilliant. What about the band itself? How did that come about?
I've been in quite a selection of formations of bands. I started my own band called Soda Scream many years ago, which was like a horror rockabilly. It's always had this kind of horror influence. And as that kind of dropped down, as a lot of bands do, I just sort of moved in and out as a bass player throughout different sort of punk and hardcore punk bands throughout Bedfordshire. So I forgot to say, we are from Middle Earth, UK, aka Bedfordshire. And yeah, just while that was happening, Laura's actually my go-to person for a tattoo artist. That's her career. Obviously, I can't vouch too much of her background, but she's done 100 things. So tattoo artist, zoologist, and then sort of gone back to being a tattoo artist. Incredible person. And I'd always just gone to her. Pretty much my arms are covered, lots of me is covered, and 80% of it is from Laura. And during our conversations, I mean, we always chatted like a house on fire, never talked about a band. We always talked about music. You know, there's lots of ones that kind of cross over for us, from Juliet and the Licks to Nine Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, etc. Yeah. And just years passed, and she would always come and see me perform as well. I never said like, oh, by the way, I'm a singer or anything like that. Yeah. And it just had this kind of weird purgatory where I wasn't in the band, and I just thought, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I just thought, fuck it. Let's do my own solo project. And I started writing maybe 8 or 9 songs, which were definitely towards more kind of the Jack Off Jill, Marilyn Manson ilk. And just at the same time, Laura released a single, just stuck it on Facebook. And you know when someone says, oh, I can sing, or they maybe just go up and stand up and start singing, yes. I don't know, a Dead or Alive song or something like that. And it's just one of those moments where she was just singing. I thought, holy shit, she can sing really, really well. It just absolutely blew me away. She did all of her music, so it was mainly synth-driven, but it still had lots of harmonies and kind of what she's known for, and just really belting it out. And I just thought, oh crap, we've known each other for like a decade, never talked about this, just sent her a quick message and just said, I've got this kind of rough track going on. It's called Pain Meds. It's not quite the usual thing I do. Do you want to just stick something on it? And she just said, yeah. 2 weeks later, she put kind of her first version, which was almost the final one, to be fair. And it just absolutely blew me away. And just thought, why don't we do something from this? And that's kind of where it started. With no name, no talks of an album, the fact that we've done 2 now. We did that song. It sounded pretty cool, and we just bounced it left and right through the internet. We didn't even meet up. Got this kind of pretty decent version together, and then she just said, oh, by the way, did you like the music video that was for my solo project? And I thought, yeah, it actually looked really neat, really sharp, really cool, slight gothic undertones. And she said, oh yeah, by the way, I've sent over that little MP3 that we did. This guy called Liam's really interested, and he can actually get us a disused mansion. It's going to be bulldozed in 2 weeks' time. Do you want to make a music video for this song that we don't have a title for the band that we may or may not be in and don't have a title for? And just thought, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So could I drive at that point? I don't think I could even drive. I can drive now, but I think at that point I couldn't. Just hopped in her car, went to North London, and yeah, just amongst the trees and the shrubs in Middle Earth was this massive house. I mean, it wasn't too dissimilar to the one behind you with the crow. It was a little bit of a nod to that.
Oh, yeah.
And it was literally falling apart. and we just made this video. There was 2 crew members, and they had all the rigs, you know, when they have almost like safety stuff around them, so it can hold like a big suspending camera.
Wow.
Just filmed this ace video over one day and thought, yeah, we probably need a name. And that's kind of where our relationship built, kind of really from the video rather than the track, I'd say. And just thought, oh, this isn't just for our mums and dads. Maybe we could do something with this. So that's how we kind of come about. And Unquiet Dead, we sort of toed and froed with a couple of names, but I'm a big Doctor Who fan. Sort of not so much now, but back in the day I was. And one of my favourite episodes from, should we say, New Who, even though that's over 15 years old, is called The Unquiet Dead. And there's 4 Unquiet Dead.
That's a cool name, though, isn't it? And I believe there's a horror movie, isn't there, as well?
I don't know about that. There is definitely a selection of books about a medium who obviously can contact the dead. Yeah. And that's kind of loosely related to the Doctor episode as well.
It's good. It's a good name.
Thank you.
It's a good name.
I don't mind. It's Unquiet Dead, but a lot of people say The Unquiet Dead. But
oh, do they?
Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. You've answered so many questions already.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
Funny, I couldn't actually say what genre we was, but then I could just reel that off. But sorry, genre, yeah, it's just sort of, I'd say a gothic industrial hybrid is what most people seem to gravitate towards.
Yeah, because it is quite a unique sound, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. I don't think I can answer that, but thank you.
Yeah. What's the? Do you know the inspiration behind that kind of sound that you've got, or is it just something that happened?
I think it's, if anything, just organic. We've both got like quite different musical tastes, but that was the joy of it because of that first track. And yeah, sure, Payment, probably out of all of them, is more my song. But after that, it was just throwing out an idea, listen to it in our own bedrooms, essentially, and just bounce it back. I honestly think, and I think Laura would vouch for this, every song is 50% of each of us.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is
yeah,
really
there's
good way
never
of working.
been a distribute from anyone. We're just very respectful. And I honestly think, I hope she thinks the same, but when she sends over like a track that I've maybe added some riffs and she suddenly changed the formation, you just think, yeah, that works. But yeah, sorry, to your original question. Influences, I mean, I was brought up with new metal. We both were. That was kind of our first conversation. And I know more towards the older generation, not all of them obviously kind of quaff at it, but I just think it's on the same thing as stuff like glam. You know, for punk, it's just that kind of element. And I love the stage presence, particularly of new metal, and kind of that noughties revival of other things like hardcore punk, bands like Amen. You know, it's one of my favourite bands of all time. And again, it's not necessarily the music that I'd be influenced, though there's maybe some little bits and bobs. It's more the presence. It's just the power. And that's what I liked about Laura. Is like, not saying Laura is Casey Chaos, but it had that kind of like, oh shit, this is something that I should be paying attention to.
See, after listening to you guys, I don't know if you remember the singer. Do you remember Danielle Dax?
No, I don't know.
She was a member of the Lemon Kittens. I don't know if you heard of them either. Right, if you listen to Danielle Dax, this was in the 80s, and I remember, cringy I know, but Pete Waterman,
yeah,
he was doing a review of her song, and he said, that girl, he said, she's just come way too soon. He said she should have been further along the line. He said, because her music is unique, but it's brilliant. And if you listen to her, you will hear yourselves, I'm sure of it.
Oh, fantastic. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, and she was, you know, kind of all the makeup, the flamboyancy, you know, and it was all there. But the sound, especially I think Laura's voice, it very similar.
Oh, that's amazing. I would definitely check that out. Who knows, maybe it's been on an old B movie or something and just kind of just sort of drilled in the back of our heads. You know, there's, you know, we all still like an artist, like you say, thank you for saying that we have like a unique sound, but you're walking down the road and you hear some sort of pneumatic drill, and you just think, oh, I love the beat of that. Obviously that's where stuff like Throbbing Gristle's from.
Can't help it, can you? Oh, he was brilliant.
No. So yeah, we all take from the world, but I think more stage presence. And I was very lucky because we have a selection of venues around us. So we have Club 85, which is about 20 minutes away, and then we have Esquires, which right now where I live is about 5 minutes. And it was kind of just a through route for big bands. I mean, even think of someone like Andrew WK. I just plucked that from the air.
Yeah.
But when he came to England, he would always drive through essentially Esquires in Bedford. So even stuff like on the other end of the spectrum, like Weezer, Wheatus.
Yeah.
Again, you just see these sort of bands where they've got like a massive following. And I'm not particularly a fan of Wheatus, but I did go, and just seeing stage presence again, even a man with an acoustic guitar, though I'm not a big fan of acoustic music, it just had that kind of like you're absorbed into that world.
Yeah, and that was the same with Throbbing Gristle. I saw Psychic TV.
Oh yeah,
and wow, what a stage presence! And he really did drag you in. He was just amazing. He was an amazing guy. The music he created was just so unique. Really was.
No, 100% agree. I actually went, I think it was during the end of uni, we'd have like a few spokespeople. We had someone from like Team 17 who invented the games Worms and stuff like that. And then we had members of Throbbing Gristle. Unfortunately, didn't have the front person themselves, but everyone else was there. And they were just sort of talking about their art projects. And just at the time, obviously, I adored stuff like Nine Inch Nails and even bands that were sort of piggybacking off it, like Stabbing Westwood and stuff like that. Like, get it all. And then even into like Dope Stars and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, they were showing Throbbing Gristle, and I'd never heard of them. And they were saying like, oh, we're kind of the pioneers of industrial. And I was thinking, well, no, you aren't, because I've seen Trent Reznor on stage, and then seeing their live footage from mid-70s, I was just like, wow, this is something else. This is so cool.
I know my friends, when we went to see them, they said, who are they? I said, you must remember the song Godstar. No. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a hard sell, this. And then it came on and was live, and it was just like, it was in a marquee, and he just climbed to the top, no rigging, no nothing, just climbed to the top. Didn't recognise him because he was dressed as a woman. So we just didn't get it. And then at the top, he took his wig off, he took the mask off, and we went, oh my God, it's him. What's he doing up there? But he didn't care. He was there to push boundaries, and he did it. Yeah. Really different.
And I think, depending on the background and kind of the message for the music, some bands can just explode and then burn out. And again, just to go back to Amen, because I love them so much, seeing Casey Chaos, I think was one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. That was probably about 2000 at Ozfest. That was in Milton Keynes, which again, it makes it sound like I'm in the middle of all the entertainment, but I am. Milton Keynes is about 40 minutes that way.
Yeah, that's good.
And just seeing a large stage, the second stage, I think Tool was setting up for their one on the main stage. And just, I mean, think of how high stacked amps are at giant festivals. Him just climbing up like 4 of those, and you could see everyone getting really nervous, and him just shouting, fuck amen, it's not about the music, you should all hate us and all this. And as a 16-year-old, just thinking, what the? And then as we all chanted it, just leaping off and landing straight on his feet, and then just kind of doing like a weird flip. And I think they even had the guitarist and the Wild Hearts in there, just looking really concerned about the whole thing, and just bending over backwards. And I just thought, I don't want to do that, but I want a piece of that. I want to go on stage. I want to do that energetic thing. And I think even the first band I ever saw, which I still remember, is called Headwire, and they were just sort of a rock band in Bedford. And just seeing them just shuffle around, I'm sure they were probably shoegazing, but at the time it felt like, oh, I want to get on there. I don't even have an instrument, but I want a piece of that energy.
Yeah, because it is an energy, isn't it? And It is brilliant to see. I won't say I don't like them, but it's so bad when you see a band and they're just standing there. I mean, I like the Cure. I like the Cure, but the way he just performs, he's just standing there, and it's like, please, Robert, move.
And think of like so much time for them to sort of build in that performance. But I guess it's in a nuances, isn't it? With Robert, you know, it's obviously not just the look, but the stage presence is almost like the tilting of the head and it's engaging with the audience rather than going bananas.
Yeah.
To kind of counter that, I think for people that think about stage presence, a band like Mastodon, where they are so over the top, you just think you can't really do much entertainment. But what they have is, oh, sorry, I should have asked, have you ever seen Mastodon?
I haven't.
Okay, so at the big like festivals, obviously they're just playing and they're just standing there like just concentrating the hell out of it. But when you see them in a smaller venue, like Brixton Academy or something like that, they have full visuals. So every song has full animations, lyrics on the screen, and it doesn't matter that they're just standing there, just like fully concentrating. You just think, I'm immersed in this world. It's just really, really cool. Like
That's
a completely different take.
That's a clever idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
and
really
I think
good.
a perfect balance to someone like Rammstein, that would be like my ideal, because they've got it down to the niche.
They really
Such a
do.
niche where they don't need to headbang for an hour and 20 minutes because they've just got the props, but the props are part of the music, the visuals again. I don't particularly like someone doing something for the sake of it, but it just it flows, doesn't it, with like Rammstein gigs.
Yeah.
You will headbang, you may mouth the words, but you're mainly just going, oh my God, what the fuck's going on?
That's brilliant though, isn't it? I mean, it when it stuns the audience and the audience just are looking there and in awe, almost.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love that. Really do.
I mean, especially at a young age, like I said, I then moved into more sort of hardcore and post-punk bands like Blood Brothers, The Locust. Have you ever seen The Locust?
Heard of them, but haven't seen them.
Okay, check them out straight after this. They basically are like sort of insects. Not too crazy, but they've got like mesh eyes. They all wear the same coloured, like bright blue suits or something with that fur on them. And it's just really fast, loud punk mathcore. So it's just this crazy. And seeing that live is just, again, they're not going to be headbanging because it's just so like, there's only so much you can take. But at a young age, at like 18, seeing that, it just absolutely blew me away of what you can do. And growing up with something like Marilyn Manson, as a 16-year-old, I think is the gateway drug. You know, is he my favorite person now? No. And we just talk about the music, obviously not about him, just the music itself. But then, once you see him at 16, you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then you start seeing the smaller bands, even stuff like Combi Christ, where you're just like, wow, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
I mean, I do love Combi Christ. They're brilliant.
I adore Combi Christ. And actually, a nice link, I've only seen them once, but when they supported Rammstein.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, massive. They didn't really, I guess they weren't allowed to have too much of their stage gear, but they're the two drummers. You know, they do more sort of, they do all the tom drums, don't they, rather than like a full drum set. And just seeing that, again, it was just him. All he could do is he was doing laps of this massive stage, of just running left, running right, and just going for it. And just think, that is so fucking cool. I mean, we don't have a drummer. I mean, I'll talk about that in a bit. It's all positive, obviously, but I love that way of drums. I'm trying to think. There's an English band. Oh, what are they called? Slaves. Have you seen or heard of Slaves?
No.
Okay, so it's sort of like, I may get this wrong, apologies for any Londoners out there, but it's sort of like Cockney punk indie, but they just have a guitar player and the singer plays the drums. So he kind of has a couple of toms and a bass drum and he's standing. And again, the volume from two people can be staggering.
That's awesome. But it
Yeah,
is some groups can really put out a loud volume, just like you said, just two people.
yeah.
But that's what you go for, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's trying to link it all to us. That's why one of the reasons we haven't used a drummer. I think maybe for every 10 performances, we may have a comment at the end saying, "Oh, I wonder what it'd be like with the drummer." But we use so many samples and beats.
Yeah.
I think if we were going to have a drummer, and never say never, so we have been speaking to someone,
Yeah.
we would do it more, I think, towards Combi Christ. That is more adding to it rather than being like a full session drummer.
Yeah. Yeah. So who does that part then? Who does the programming side of the drums and
For the third, well, we're working on a third album. Obviously, we'll finish on that bit. But up to then, it was like 50-50, pretty much. In fact,
wow.
even with the third album, still 50-50. The first album had a much more of kind of looping samples, but the second one, we had actually got a little bit more into the programming side. But especially the synth areas, that's 100% Laura.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so she just does all that thing. I mean,
both of
normally...
you,
Oh, sorry, say that again.
sorry, but both of you, you really are 50-50, aren't you? It's brilliant.
Yeah, and
Excellent.
I've never had a band like that, and especially with vocalists, I'm sure vocalists that I've been with in the past can agree, is naturally they need to be at the front, so they've got opinions, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But with someone as laid back as Laura, and I hope, if we ever have another interview in a time, Laura will be to the left of me and I'll just keep my mouth shut and just be like, yes. But she's extremely chilled, but extremely good at music. So I think on top of the tattooist and the zoologist degree, I think in her early years, she was trained as a musician in the vocal department. So she's got all that in the bag. And yeah, I think with just the two of us as a live thing, I think it really works. And we're by no means the first people to do it. And it's starting to become more and more popular anyway, to have this almost DIY. Mentioned Olga before, two people. Yeah. Even a really modern band that's getting popular like Wargasm. I mean, the core of it's just the two of them. I think sometimes they have a live drummer when they're at a festival. It's just the two of them. And I think maybe if I saw that at 16, I'd be like, where's the drummer? Where's the bassist? But in this modern world, where, everything's done through GarageBand, essentially, why can't it be a punk DIY group?
It's still music. At the end of the day, you're still creating and you're still doing music, so why not?
Exactly.
And it works.
We can fit ourselves in the car as well, rather than getting some sort of big cheap. Everything is extremely cheap. I'm not saying we're cheap, as in like on our quality, not our price. Obviously, if you do want to book us, let us know. We are very reasonable, but we can fit in one tiny car and off we go. So.
Well, that is true, because they used to have to take a whole big tour bus, the van behind with all the amps and whatever and all the instruments, and now you can just, like you said, pack up in a car and off you go.
Yeah, and actually, randomly, this may sound a bit weird, but we supported Toya Wilcox.
Oh, I saw the comment on your Bandcamp.
Yeah, we'll get into like how we actually got into the scene in a bit, but that was really early on. And I think it was the guitarist and the guy that played keys, they didn't have any amps. And up to then, all the bands I've been in, especially being a bass player, like this massive fucking thing just to play in a pub. And it's just like, I've got it to the left of me as almost as a memento, a massive Marshall amp to play to some like four people sipping their Carlin. Again, Carlin, if you're listening, you can sponsor us. It's cool. We're open to all of that. But suddenly seeing Toya, and I was just I have a big Black Star guitar amp, getting up the stairs, and then just seeing those guys with just literally like a Mac Mini, and everything linked to this Mac Mini, and I was just like, and this was only like 4 years ago or something like that, because we don't count last year, so 4 years ago rather than 5.
Yeah.
Just seeing it all linked up, I was like, what? And then they just explained, like, you don't need amps now. You can have amps, but you don't need them. And then I've literally just gone, in fact, give me 2 seconds. Everything now is just in this one piece. So the whole brain, I programmed it all through the Mac, and it's just basically an empty vessel, and we just hook that up. That's my full setup. It's just that pedal. And it started off with just, well, again, I'm not going to drag the amp here, but there was just stuff everywhere, and it's like, whoosh, to this modern
amazing,
thing.
Isn't it?
Make all your sounds through the Mac, upload it, done.
How it's changed.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, it's still creative.
I'm not going to drag them out, but I've got Valve amps, and I've sold most of that shit. It's just, yeah, you don't need it, especially for a 2-piece. That's kind of the whole point. You don't want us dragging huge things.
No.
Just like, yeah, here's my box. The box of T-shirts is bigger than all of our equipment put together.
But it's just amazing, that little device, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, normally one guitar, unless we're headlining, which we've been very fortunate. A lot of our things coming up are headlining evenings, so I bring 2, you know, just in case. But normally, there's a type of string. Can't remember it off my head, but they say it's indestructible. So yeah, it's probably about £15 for some strings, but you're pretty much guaranteed they're not going to break. So one guitar, one pedal, microphone, and a few other bits and bobs, but not much.
Wow, that's brilliant now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you put out that sound.
Thank you. Yes.
That's brilliant. That's
it's just
brilliant.
Loud. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good, isn't it? It's really good.
Yeah.
Something I've got to ask you. A movie?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and keep this as short as possible. But a good friend of mine, I'd say, first of all, is more of an internet friend, but then we actually got a lot closer. His name's Liam, and he is part of the Troma family. So if you don't know, people watching Troma, stuff like Class of Nukem High, Toxic Avenger, all this sort of classic,
I'd heard it.
all of that. So it's fine. It's a name, isn't it? But what's really cool about Troma, and one of the heads is called Lloyd, Uncle Lloyd is what everyone calls him, is he is now, and his business partner, the longest running independent film studio. So they've been going since the late 70s. So now it's something like 45 years, even through hard times, you know, when money is non-existent.
Yeah.
They've still produced movies, they've still made movies. And Liam is part of that family. So he made a movie called Banjo. Look it up if you like something a little bit gross. It's like an adult Drop Dead Fred, if you remember that Rick Mail movie.
Yes, brilliant that was.
Yeah, if you don't, well, if the audience doesn't know what a banjo string is on a male penis, look it up, and it all revolves around that. It's great. And I remember watching it. I didn't know who he was. I just saw a tiny little magazine clipping about him, and just thought he looked really interesting. He mentioned Amen, so I was just like, oh, this guy sounds cool. Yeah. And watched the movie, bought the T-shirt, and that was that. And then I went to a drag show up in Sheffield. Do you know what Woolworths is, or what Woolworths was? Yeah. So Woolworths, again, people don't know. Don't worry about it. It's just a shop that's gone now. But these Woolworths were so large that when they shut down, obviously they couldn't fill it. So in Sheffield, they'd have like little punk evenings, drag nights, and watch a drag show in a disused Woolworths. And opposite me was this Liam guy, and that was like 7 years ago, and we've been friends since. And he managed, this is obviously his world, but he managed to now own the rights to his original movie because he sold it essentially to the wrong people. Got the rights to it. He's releasing it on Blu-ray at Christmas, and he said, could we have Burn My Head Down by Unquiet Dead as one of the new tracks on the movie? And I was like, yeah, of course. Signed the papers, off it went, done. That's out in this December. And then during lockdown, he said, right, we've got 80% of the movie. We just got a sort of injection of money from the Troma company. They own the rights to America. I still own the rights to everywhere else. Can we have the song Ashton? Because I love it. And it's like, yes. It's like 2 movies, 2 songs. That's awesome. And then he just said, I'm not sure if it's your thing, but do you want to be in a movie yourself and Laura? And I was like, Well, hell yeah, of course we do.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
a whole 14 months passed, but it was only 2 weeks ago, myself and Laura went up to Sheffield, and there was a really old theatre, a cinema, sorry, and it's falling apart. It's something from not 1910, I think it originally came out. I think it was a ballroom originally, and then converted to a cinema, and it just looked incredible. And to be on quote unquote a proper movie set was really ace. And I thanked Liam 100 times over to kind of let us do our thing, really. We had fans there, we had extras as general extras, so it was absolutely packed out, and they created a big stage for us in the middle of the cinema. Smoke machines everywhere. It was very Sister of Mercy, because obviously you can't see them, those guys. But amongst that, there was like luminous pinks and greens all shining on us, and we were basically kind of the school band, the prom band, shall we say, for the opening act of season for the movie Act 3, for the movie called Eating Miss Campbell. And we basically played Ash about 7 times with all the crowd just going absolutely apeshit. And the tiny bits we saw on the monitor looked fantastic. And they just filmed Laura for a bit, myself for a bit, in like different angles. Yeah. But the director just basically just said, do your thing, I trust you, we're going to do it like 6 or 7 times, off you go. And we just treated it like a normal gig, of which we hadn't played live for 14 months. So from not playing at all, to having like, obviously we had practice or two before, just before, to then suddenly being like, this is a gig. Because in the end, we end up playing for like 40 or 50 minutes. And amongst all the takes, we still had to entertain everyone because they were setting shit up. And it was just a really, really cool experience. And Liam just seemed, he was just like grinning from ear to ear. And especially a day, I think was something like a 12-hour filming day. And we were just like an hour and a half of that day. Was really, really cool. So the fact it's going to be shown in America, it's going to be shown in LA festivals, New York, obviously all around Europe, hopefully Malta, who knows if you've got a film festival. But yeah, I'm just really grateful for Liam to kind of take a risk, really.
But it's a great way to get noticed as well.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I actually found Combi Christ by watching the film Gene Generation.
Oh, cool. Okay, great.
Because they had the song Get Your Body Beat.
Which is still my favourite song.
Yeah, and mine. And they were in like behind a cage.
Okay.
And I think it was a Japanese film, because everyone in it was Japanese, so I'm assuming that it was a Japanese kind of style martial arts thing. And it's actually a really good film. And that's how I found out. I thought, oh God, that band is brilliant. Who are they? So it could happen the same. You know, you get new fans from people seeing the film.
Yeah, and I think the reason I keep saying Troma is because there was a really massive following behind that. And what's quite traditional about those movies is they always have really cool music and normally a band playing. And Liam's just picked all like mainly British bands, Pretty Addictive are going to be featured musically. Other music like Hands Off Gretel, which I really aspire to. I think even Wheatus is on it randomly. But another band that I saw really young and I love called Diso Fluids. I'm sort of really highly inspired by them. So the fact that not only is our song like the main song, but to feature in a movie with the sounds list looking so ace, I'm like, thanks, Liam. That's just really, really cool of you.
It's really good. It's a good push, isn't it? And it's, although you've enjoyed it, it's good advertising for the band.
Of course. And this is kind of a whole journey, really. I mean, it has been 5 years, which has been a blur, obviously, last year. We say 4 years. 4 years. Really.
Yeah, because of that.
But we're not going to get into that rubbish. But it's all just been the art of asking, which is the thing I say in life and in business and etc. Just ask. You know, if you want to be somewhere or try a new venue or do a cool evening, just ask, because what's the worst that can happen, really? I think that's number one. That's my only piece of advice. But I think number two, we had like 1 or 2 gigs. We had like 1 gig in essentially a glorified pub without the makeup. Only time we didn't do it, felt very strange. And then literally, like by gig 3, we were playing with Balaam and the Angel.
Wow.
So yeah, I think just kind of the zeitgeist of us, people were just very keen, and we can't get a gig down the road. But then suddenly we were playing in Whitby Goth Festival. Then we've played at like Club Antichrist, which is the largest sort of fetish old evening in Europe. Played there twice. So rather than it being gig, which is awesome for some bands, especially like punk bands, we've just played really cool random places. And the movie, I kind of count it as that. It's just people were just really nice to us. We were really nice to them, open for suggestions. If you want to do some sort of fetish night and we just play in the evening for half an hour, yes, you know, it's that kind of thing rather than saying, we go down the road. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I say, Balaam and the Angel and Toya was actually down the road, but not hired locally, hired by people. There's a guy called Frankie Flag or Flag Promotions. He hires really cool people and, just get picked up like that. So we've had 4 years of just really cool experiences. I think something that we can reflect on in years to come and be like, remember when we played the fetish night? Remember when we did this? Remember when we played in Dark Malta, right? Yeah, that's going to be another memory of just... It
will be, definitely.
So yeah, we're really grateful for that. The Balaam and the Angel guys were awesome. Toya was surreal, but awesome. And she was really keen. She had no idea who we were, but she remembered our name at the end and sort of thanked us. So
that's good.
Yeah, what more do you want, really?
Exactly. And you've got a big gig coming up, have you? It's the Goth City Festival.
For that. I may have forgotten, and I actually said to the promoter, I'd say. So Goth City Festival is running over a few days in October. I think it's about the 9th, but please just go on Facebook and look up Goth City. It is Leeds-based. There is loads of bands playing, absolutely loads. Fantastic ones. I'm not even going to list them because you just need to go on and pick for yourself. But, you know, if you're hard up on cash, just go to our evening, which is the Saturday one. But by all means, I think it's something like £30, like £20 more. And it's a bit like Edinburgh Fringe. You just get your one wristband and there's like several venues that you can play in. And I think we are main support for Olga, just to go back to Olga as well. So, yeah, and Olga's really a really good band, a band we highly respect because they really like us. Their manager called Stephen Five, if you're listening, hi. Yep. He's just really such a nice, cool guy, and he's put us under a wing many a time. So, again, it's these little tribe families. Yeah. So we really like, despite being in the south, and we do love awesome gigs down in London. The north really seems to embrace us. Places like Morecambe, Sheffield, Leeds, obviously Whitby. So all these bands who have these all these locations have such a cool little blocks of tribes and families that are just really into goth and just sort of, should we say, like alt goth and stuff like that. And just for the show, again, because you can see, you know, what I'm wearing now. And this is my Saturday afternoon look. It's about stage presence. You know, we were brought up on stuff like from Goth to Alice Cooper to even Smashing Pumpkins. You know, when I linked to new metal, I linked stuff like Smashing Pumpkins because in that sort of 2001 era, you had Ivor Adore and stuff like that, and just fantastic. Seeing, which is one of my favourite songs of all time.
I love that
and
song.
Definitely influenced by it's stunning, and it's really simple.
It is,
you know,
and it's visual as well.
Is overcomplicated. It's really just on the nose. It's really cool and slick.
And then the video that goes with it was just brilliant.
Oh, fantastic.
The moving along constantly, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, and there are people that have tried to copy it. Like I think it was Edema that did a very similar video, but it's just not that.
It
Um,
needs that song with it. That's it. It
yeah,
does.
that. I mean, again, for stage presence, yes, people like that. But probably top top one or two bands of my all time is Queen Adrena or Drina. Sorry, do you know Queen Adrena?
No.
Absolutely check them out. I think if there is anything that you could say, oh, what do you sound like? It's probably more towards them, like
Okay.
elements of dreamy goth, but then some albums just really hard, simple riffs that are just that kind of really to the beat. Fantastic band. I think they got about 5 albums. I think they even had a member of Clash on the drums at one point,
All right.
and they just were just like really big and then gone. And Katie
Okay.
Jane, Garside, is probably the British original Riot Girl, I would say. You know, because obviously you got stuff like Courtney Love, etc.
Yeah.
Even Courtney Love and Jessica Adams from Jack Off Jill, they all reference back to Katie. She's just one of these like underground people still doing her thing. Her vocals are so sort of dream and nightmare mix, incredible harmonics. I think she said she lived on a canal boat. She still does, actually. And the acoustics were so good, she tried to basically emulate herself, like echo herself.
Ah, okay.
But then stage presence, she would wear stuff that I definitely would wear, like kind of old wedding dresses or something like that, and just absolutely feel the music. And I think that's what we do, and I think that's what people really engage with us. They see these photos, especially with the early days, like Toya, people were a bit intimidated because they probably just saw the picture on Facebook and they probably haven't even heard the song and just thought, who the fuck are those people? What is Toya? Or Balaam and the Angel? Or another band we played with, Gene Loves Jezebel, which we love. So we're all kind of in that kind of area. Seeing the picture, I think people are a bit taken back. You know, Laura does a very ghostly kind of version. But then when they start seeing us perform and feeling it and just giving it all for that half an hour, 40, 50 minutes, I think we seem to win over, I think, about 90%. The thing I would say from everyone is, as soon as the phones go away, that is the modern day world of people fully chanting and screaming. The fact that you can spend half an hour not looking at Instagram and just thinking, oh shit, what was that riff? Or holy crap, that ghostly female, or I think they're female on stage is something else. So that's kind of, I think, where we're getting so many cool live sort of gigs is the performance equal to the music. Laura has a very regal stage presence. I guess a little bit like Ghost, kind of has this really cool, demanding presence where she will engage more by the staring, the singing to people and that kind of thing, and just her arm movements. Where I'm highly influenced by how Nine Inch Nails perform and stuff like that, especially kind of the Fragile area. Just seeing them absolutely go for it, that's kind of my angle. So you got this almost like franticness, and then you've just got this like real rock, this solid thing going on.
Yeah.
I think people were just like, oh. I don't think it's ever what the fuck, because it's not like we're dressed up as like locusts.
No.
It's just more like, oh, I'm going to actually engage with this. And we've had nothing but blessings the whole way through. You know, we're not famous in the slightest, but people just seem to really like us. And that's all we want. It's just pay attention. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, for that half an hour, we are the best band you're going to see in that half an hour is the way it's forward. Or maybe the best thing is to say you are the best band in the world for the next 30 minutes in that little echo chamber.
Yeah.
And as soon as you finish and we're off stage, that's it. It doesn't matter. The next band could be even better. But just that half an hour, just pay attention and just enjoy it, really.
Exactly. Do you still get nervous before a performance?
I think it'd be very weird if you didn't get nervous.
Yeah.
Echoing a certain interview that I watched only a couple of days ago, I know he was he gets very nervous before going on stage, which kind of threw me off a little bit because he's so good. I've seen him perform, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm not a particularly nervous person. You could probably tell by the way I'm sort of just talking through this. My background is presenting a lot, so I'm engaged. Something that makes me more nervous is maybe if the venue owner is nervous. You know, if they're just thinking, oh, the sound shit or this, that. You know, we will just go with the flow. You know, if it's a bad night, the original sound guy isn't there or girl. You know, so be it. Let's just make a good show of it. But things that make me more nervous is kind of the elements around me. So yeah, if people are freaking out or, you know, something like that. But yeah, sure. I get a little bit nervous maybe normally about 2 minutes before. Up to then I'm chatting as much as I am now before and after. Just before, it's before I get on stage and just before, like when we're just in the dressing room, I get a little bit tense. And as soon as you see the stage, just think, yep, fuck it, let's do it. That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And it just make the best of it.
Yeah, and just the adrenaline. I mean, the adrenaline, I think, for any band in the world gets you through the first song anyway.
It's got to,
and then that's the test. After the first two songs, bang, bang. Right, oh, you're here now, you're in the... But keep it up. Just keep it up. Don't just suddenly start looking at your shoes just because you're all comfortable.
Exactly. I mean, that amazed me the other day, talking about the interviews. Did you see or did you hear the Jean-Luc one from Front 242?
No.
Because they've been going, since I think it was 86? And I asked the same question to him, and he said, oh yes, every time we get stressed, we get worried about going on stage, nervous. He said, and we do that, he said, because we love the stress. He said, we go out there as if it's our first ever show.
Yeah.
And we give it everything we've got to make it the best. He said, we never look back. We're always looking, this is our first show, give it all. And I thought, after all these years, you're still doing that.
No, that's a huge respect for them saying that as well and admitting it, because I'm sure some bands out there are just like, well, we're the fucking nuts and we don't care what people say. That's probably 96% bullshit if people are saying that. I think everyone gets nervous. And it's just natural, you know, if you're standing up for a presentation on a shitty PowerPoint, you're going to feel nervous. You know, my background, I do drag performances as well. And that can be worse because you got like a music behind you, obviously, but that's all you've got. You've not got no focus. If you have that little moment, you can just focus on the guitar for a second and then look up. But something like drag performance, all you got is the faith that someone presses the play button and then off you go. And normally with stuff like drag, you know, I did a performance maybe 2 weeks ago, underground in a basement, basically, to about 50 or 60 people. They're not only so close, but they normally wrap around you. So you only have like a, I don't know, 10 by 10 square, maybe a little bit less, to do all of your high kicks and do all that. If you don't get nervous for that, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Laura's very zen. I don't think I could answer it for her. She always seemed extremely just level-headed the whole time. And at the end, she has a big grin on her face. So, yeah, I'll leave that with her to answer in the future.
Brilliant. I love that. I think you've more or less covered it, but you've both got very striking looks. I mean, I had to write this down to say it. Laura has a very dark, mysterious look, and you've got this look of, don't you think about messing with me.
Yeah, it looks like I got in a fight today. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's, again, for so many bands that I respect, a lot of them, they're not going to necessarily go for a full beat. But I think by putting, one, you could consider it a mask, and it is, you know, it's obviously an actual mask. Mushroom Head is an actual mask. But I think what I like about it, and Laura may think differently, is I feel that has immediately got a person looking at you. Especially if they'd just gone there for Gene Loves Jezebel, would be the perfect example. Sold out, rammed, you got people's hands touching the stage. Yeah. You walk on stage, and immediately it's like, what the fuck am I looking at? And you've probably got their attention for the next minute and a half. Just like, oh, and you see the cameras come out, but then you play a really kick-ass song. You're giving it full energy, and I think it's that attention seeking. It's the, oh, what you're going to do now kind of thing. And again, it's just that presence. You know, all the bands that we've talked about, if they're not doing makeup, which probably most are, they're still doing it in extravagant clothing, kick-ass guitars, you know, something along those lines.
There's always something there, isn't there? There's got to be.
Yeah. I mean, someone like Combi Christ, I think, is a great example. I think they're fluxed in doing full makeup to not so much, but they've still got this presence about them.
They have.
And unity, you know, I'm sure you can see many bands down the road, again, no distant sort of local bands down the road, but if it's a load of guys in their Levi jeans, are we allowed to talk sponsors? I'm kidding. Yeah, the Levi jeans and Joe Blogg shirts, don't even know if Joe Blogg still exists, but there's a time and place for that, and that's completely fine. But I think on stage, unless you're someone like Oasis, fun fact, I've never heard an Oasis album. Double fun fact, I've never heard an Ed Sheeran song, as far as I know, unless anyone played it in my sleep.
I wouldn't know either, to be honest.
But I think you need to do something, you know? We're going way back in time with Rolling Stones and Beatles. There's a unity about it. It's just being on stage. You don't need to. I could have done this interview now without the makeup. It's still cool. Yeah. I just wanted to. But I think when you're on stage, that's your 50 minutes. Just show off. You're on a stage. What's the definition of the stage?
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is an act. I mean, you mentioned Marilyn Manson earlier. I saw an interview with him, and he's actually quite down to earth. And he said, people think I'm a this and they think I'm that. He said, but all this, he said, it's an act. That's me on stage. That's not me, the real person. That's me on stage. And that is true. It's what it is a mask. There's no other way of describing it. It's a mask.
1000% yes. You know, as soon as I'm off stage, and, you know, again, uber grateful that people even know our names. You know, people know myself and Laura's name by first. Now we have even some people that come to many of our gigs. So it's very, very slowly. You're convincing 90% people, but those 10%, you still need to keep really happy. And I think people just like, after we've played, we don't fuck off somewhere and make someone buy our T-shirts. That's all there, obviously, if they want to. But the main thing is just have a chat with us to say, hey, you know, going back to that movie, obviously, I was in a full custom latex mermaid gown. This was made by, again, Experiences and the Art of Asking. This is by a company up north called Miko Couture Latex. So shout out to them. They were incredibly nice. They made this custom thing for me. It's gorgeous. And I spent probably 4 hours chatting to people in this full get-up. You know, I don't feel uncomfortable in latex, but, you know, you could. It's quite restricting. And I chatted to every single person that was there, you know, fans and just general folk. And they all left thinking, that was a really cool experience. And that's it for your stage. I'm not going quite down the Marilyn Manson, I'm the God of Fuck or anything like that, but more just like, this is my moment. Look at me doing high kicks, licking guitars, giving you the stare, giving you attitude. But the moment I step off, literally just like, if you want to hug me, hug me. If you want to have photos. If you just want to chat for whatever, just do it. We may even have dinner with you if you ask nicely. Just that's what it's about. Just networking and just being nice. I mean, Art of Asking, and just be fucking nice to everyone. Because everyone has taken their time. You know, this modern world, you know, even, you know, people will assume everything should be free. That's for another discussion. Because we've got stuff like Facebook and Instagram, obviously it's not free, because there are methods. But yeah, the fact that someone spent half an hour looking at us, or 40 minutes, or 50 minutes, thank you. You know, you can have as much time. You can have a Snickers with me if you want. or whatever you're going to eat. It's cool.
Exactly. But a lot of people don't think that bands and people are approachable, so a lot of them are more or less scared of talking to them.
Yeah, I think agreed. And I think with us, you could feel intimidated, but when we finish the set, we don't normally talk through the set. The way we normally do the songs, we try to almost to a point merge them into each other, and they blend.
Yeah.
So it's like 1 40-minute performance. Maybe not that there's ever technical difficulties, but let's just say I needed a tuner guitar. Need 40 seconds for that. So Laura may just like, thank everyone for being there, but we try to keep it all in character. So there's 40 minutes, you may not even get a word from us apart from maybe the odd thank you. But when we get to the end, we're out of character. We thank everyone properly on stage and all that stuff. We thank the promoter, the mixer. We try to remember everyone. But yeah, during the set, I don't think anyone's ever commented, but you see a lot of bands and they just go, so this is from our second EP from 1996. Who remembers? No, Dad? No? Okay, well, we've got this funny story about this. And you're just thinking, oh, yeah, I'm starting to lose interest a little bit.
You just play.
But when you got someone like Combi Christ support in Rammstein, that's someone I highly influenced, because until the end, they were just smashing those songs, giving you full everything. And at the end, they all got up, thank you, bowed, very graceful, you finished. And I really like things like that, and that's why we do it. It's like watching a little film. Yeah, I think that's the coolest way to describe it.
It is, and I like that idea. I mean, it's nice when you can approach people. I found that doing this, that by asking, I was surprised how many bands have said yes, to being interviewed. I mean, I just started out and just people were saying yes, and I thought, okay, I didn't expect that. Some of these bands I'd been listening to for a long time, and when you get told yes by them, and you think, really?
Yeah, that reminds me many years ago. Again, I'd probably say an idol of mine is Alec Empire. So from the Atari Teenage Riot era, and Alec Empire's solo, what's it called, Intelligence and Sacrifice, which I think is one of the most brutal commercial albums to ever come out. It's kind of that sort of downward spiral for the noughties. Yeah. It's so harsh. I think even one of the songs was for Dave Grohl. He did like a solo project. I can't remember its name. In that kind of mid to late noughties. And it was so so crass, so like grinds your teeth. He was like, I'm not having that. So having that album was like, wow. And for reasons, I used to have I still have a music review website. I don't review on it anymore. It's called Keep It Fast. It's for unusual bands. A lot of them more toward the hardcore area. But I spoke to Alec Empire and just said, like, may I have an interview with you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And again, it's just the modern world is like, you think of someone like, I think of someone like him as this kind of like above everyone. And, he's so technical minded, so intelligent, and then just have a natter. I was like, oh, hi. I didn't quite know what to say.
I was like that with Daniel Graves.
Yeah.
I thought he's never going to do it. And he said, yeah, Mike, I'm always up for an interview. Pardon? What was that?
Talking of, actually, it is related to and Graves. We were meant to support, is it Michael Graves, from the Misfits fame?
Yes, I think.
So Famous Monsters sort of era. Michael Graves. And for reasons, it was at this very famous place called Camden Underworld, which we're actually playing on the 5th of December, if you want to come down for that.
Wow.
But, for reasons, the place flooded, and so it's having a much smaller venue. The time restraints were really small. So we unfortunately got dropped. I think there was only one support who did a short set and then they played. And because I was speaking to the promoter, I accidentally said yes to the wrong gig. Because they're like, really sorry, we'll put you up for another one. And we ended up with just a hardcore punk night. So the main band was the Casualties.
Yeah.
So like the New York, punk band with Casualties. And we were thinking, why are we there? And anyway, we got there and we were hearing the sound check, and obviously you know what they sound like. a lot of bands. Oh, you'd know Sick on the Bus. Sick on the Bus played.
I think I've heard of them. I'm not sure.
Okay,
But I
so
think I've...
in that kind of Sham 69
Oh,
kind of
yes.
ilk.
Yep.
So it was like bands like us, and then like gothic industrial hybridy Queen Adrena S band, Unquiet Dead, ran opening because they were like, well, we can't put them in the middle, so they're going to open.
Yeah.
And they had a new singer from Casualties. It was like his first tour, and the tour was immense. And he came to us. We saw his sound check, and we were like, oh shit, because it was proper oi 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 oi, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he came to us with our full beats and just said, I listened to you guys in advance about a week ago in New York. I love you guys. I think it's really cool. He said, it's different that you're playing and opening this night. And he just said, respect, really. And when we opened, it was almost full already. And everyone was a bit like, who's these strange Gothic people dressed up? But again, everyone just took their time. And the singer, unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he filmed Jolene, which, out of all of our songs is definitely the most relatable and not quiet, but you could definitely just sort of sit back to it. And out of all the songs, he filmed that. It was just a cool experience. I was just left thinking, that was a nice night. Half an hour later, people were actually swinging from the roof. They were pulling cables off the ceiling. There's a place called the Black Cart in Camden, upside down, grabbing the mics from the stage. It was that sort of evening. But in that moment, again, we were saying with Mr. Graves, just not what I was thinking. And obviously, it was a bit of a happy mistake that we ended up opening, but they were just so nice. And then when they're on stage, it was like the opposite. Again, it's like,
but
wow,
at least you got you're still here.
Yeah, it's like, I'll get my coat now. This is not, it's not the fight. But,
my God. Is that terrifying if you're on stage and that starts happening?
yeah, well, when we played, I mean, it's packed, but everyone was still like just clapping, being really respectful. The odd little nod, here and there. Next song band came on, I think it was a Swedish hardcore, and just everyone was like, it was completely different. And obviously, as it should be, because it was a punk night.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you book punk bands, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, it's cool. If we've not had I'm not even kidding, we've not had a single bad experience from any venue, any person. Even something like Club Antichrist, like I said, is a fetish night. You could have you could judge that, and obviously I never would. And I go to stuff like that and Torture Garden and all that stuff. But that aside, they were just so welcoming. And sure, everyone was wearing what they wanted to wear. You're not allowed to take photos in that evening to be respectful. But the first time we played, there was 2 naked men either side of us, almost like bodyguards. They were just watching. But for your first evening of just like, oh, this is kind of what the vibe is, having these 2 like stocky men just naked to the left and right of us. We're like, yeah, this is our thing. We have like extras now. But cool.
It's a bit different.
Again, just linking it up to just experiences. We've always left with a smile on our face. Would we play in a pub again? Depends on the pub. We played in one. But again, no disrespect to anyone who does, because certain sounds sound fantastic. You can have a garage punk band sound epic. I've seen the Bronx play in a uni pub. I've seen Hot Snakes and Rocket from the Crypt play in a uni pub, and they have absolutely blown me away. So again, no disrespect to pubs and pub gigs.
No, I mean, there are some bands that thrive on those, don't they? I mean, I don't think they'd want to do anything else but pubs, some of them.
No, and it's got that sound that works, probably the sound that they're trying to recreate on their albums. Something like Black Flag. I mean, I'm sure Black Flag probably do play in much larger places. Not that there is much of Black Flag left, is there? It's just the core guy. But yeah, you would expect them to play in some sort of like uni halls and just like sell out, because their albums sound like that, don't they? They sound like this sort of broad.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of that kind of album, though, isn't it? It's that raw, how would you say it? It's not being perfected. It's just raw sound. That's what you want from the punk bands.
Yeah, it is what it is, and there's a big respect there. Someone like oh, I can't remember his last. His name is Speedo, stage name for Rocket from the Crypt. All of his sub bands, they do what's called the Free Take Wonder. So they are rehearsed to hell. Someone like Hot Snakes or Sultan, or one of these many bands he has, and they're just free takes, and they don't even mix it up. Or at least they say they don't mix it up. The same with the Bronx. There's mistakes in Bronx's first album, which is fantastic. I can't tell what they are, but again, they just want that raw sound.
And that's nice like that. I love that kind of thing. I know it's good to hear perfect sound as well, but if I'm going to listen to punk, I want it raw like it was, like it should be. Mistakes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think people may wonder why we're talking about punk so much and hardcore and noise and mathcore. It's because it's like definitely the energy is what I seek from them, but like our recording process can be any more the opposite of that, because we've gone down this much more like gothic route, much more towards a 9 Inch Nails-esque recording session where it's more about experimenting. You got your core riffs. Maybe I do remember Ash, for instance, because the only reason I remember is because it seems to be the most popular song. The core of it is my ideas in the riffs, but then it's like, right, we've got something. I think even the beginning was almost a nod to Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath. And Laura's just thinking, no, we're not having that. She didn't say that, but she sort of removed it, and then just started experimenting. Even with that song, which is like a straight up simple song.
Yeah.
So can we add these soundscapes? Can we do these echoes? Let's just try this. But why don't we try that? So we never just we finish when we're done. It's not like 3 sends while we transfer or whatever, and we say we're done. It's just this like, should we just try that? Let's try that. Let's try that.
I like that idea. That's good. It makes it a little bit different as well, especially if you're playing live as well. That kind of can differ from the album because you're experimenting. Which is
a lot of our songs structurally the same, but the sounds are definitely different. Sometimes Laura plays live synths, so obviously it's going to sound different. My guitaring, there's elements where there be a rhythm and a lead. I always play lead in that instance. But then, up to before we hit lockdown, we would then start to experiment more. So there's a band, I think we're going linking back to Malta. By the way, make sure you hire us next time. But I think Machine Rocks playing? I'm going to apologise if that's wrong. I have a feeling, I'm sure I heard their name. Have you heard of Machine Rocks?
I haven't.
Okay, so Machine and ROX. Sort of industrial band. Very, very cool. 2-piece as well. Female lead singer. And theirs is a lot more kind of a dance element. And they saw us play in Electroworks, which again is a very famous old place. The longest running Goth night, something like 35 years or something. We played there loads. And they watched us play and just said, can we do a remix? And we'd never done a remix. So I was like, of course you can. I'd love that. And they did a remix of Legends. And we loved it so much. When we started touring just before lockdown, so when we come back, we're basically continuing album 2 tour and then we move on. But we loved it so much that we've now integrated their remix into the song. We only actually managed to play it live once, but the guitars are ridiculous on it. It changes formation and beat halfway through, but all sort of synced up. And again, I think it sounds better for it. And I love Legend. Not to sort of love your own stuff, but that second album particularly I love. But then for someone to do a twist on it, another member, should we say, and think, oh shit, you've even polished it more, and to integrate that into live. We only played it once, and people were just like singing the song, which was so cool to see, a new song being sung. But then halfway through, going into this full dance sort of version, everyone was like, what?
What happened?
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, we definitely do lots of twists and turns rather than a straight up play.
Well, that's good because it gives people more variation of your own music.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't think our sound is like clinical, but it could go down that route because obviously the drums, they're never going to be off time. You're not going to have this crazy like drum roll because there's no live drummer. So that's where you got to make your own elements rather than just going, we're hitting this cue. Laura will do her own sort of harmonies. I'll do my own guitar on top of my guitar, perhaps something like that, just to keep it fun for us as well, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get bored, do you?
No, never.
You can't get bored that way. So what's next for you guys?
Well, first of all, the unfortunate, each gig that seemed to come along has been postponed. So we had Gene Loves Jezebel that had been postponed. There was a Whitney Goth one that had been moved, postponed. But all of these aside, they are happening in the future. I won't give dates, but they're just 2022. But even in the next 2 months, we've got about 7 gigs all lined up. We've got the original, is it Nosferatu? We're performing with those guys. That's in December. That's at the Underworld. But I'd say, obviously, just keep as relevant and up to date as possible. Goth City's our next one. That's going to be epic. We are playing, headlining for a Morecambe gig where it's just us. We really like those evenings. Again, it's not all about that, but if it's like a full goth night and then we are the band, I think that's really cool and just very flattering to be picked. So yeah, we've got lots of bits and bobs. I think the best thing is just go on the Facebook page. We are on Instagram and all that too, but Facebook seems to be the most interactive. Go to our events, but we've got loads of cool things coming up.
And I'll put links to your Facebook and everything underneath as well, so people can follow you or
but yeah,
or whatever.
Thank you. I think definitely for both of us, it's about performing live again, and which is probably the stock answer of everyone at the moment.
Yeah.
Because by now we probably would have released the third album, and even during lockdown, to mention lockdown just once, we'd done like 7 tracks, and we were really messing with them. They're going even harder, more towards the louder elements of Rod Zombie, but they're mixing with kind of the guitar solos of Ghosts. So that was kind of where we were heading. And even, nods to the modern bands like Poppy, Emotionless and White, from like our first and second album, I don't think you would say, oh, that sounds like Queens of the Stone Age, but, underlining everything are these little bits and bobs. So, yeah, we're just going to carry on like we started. We did something like eight gigs in a row over a course of about 2.5 weeks for the album launch. Then we had like Christmas, and then we started again, but we had a really bad, almost hurricane sort of elements about February time. And then we had lockdown. So we had like really intense, like 14 days of just doing 7 gigs. Bang! Christmas, started again, and then lockdown. So we're just going to pretend that doesn't exist, carry on doing all these gigs, and then we will properly invest time on the third album, because most people haven't heard the second or the first, so there's no point jumping to a third.
No, that's probably true. So, I mean, hopefully this will push your band a little bit more in the public eye, because it's well worth listening to. I mean, it is really good stuff. I mean, my favourite songs are Ash.
Yeah, that's fine.
It had to be, really, didn't it? I mean, I think it's everybody's favourite song. And the other one is, I'm trying to remember it. You mentioned it earlier.
Burn My Head Down?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Thank you. Only going brilliant. Just by what people say, that's all.
Yeah. So it's strange, isn't it? All different musical tastes, yet we've all come to the same 2 songs.
Yeah. Maybe it's because they are arguably the most catchiest.
I think so.
They're definitely the more straight up songs. And again, there's a hell of nothing wrong with that. But yeah, rather than being a bit more experimental, like If You Don't Love Me, the final song, which is more like a waltz song, you're just going to go for straight up Ash, which I guess, it has a kind of stoner rock, goth kind of thing going on.
But I love the video as well. I mean, Laura's so calm at that table, and then there's you frantic with the guitar in the background.
Well, that's just us in a nutshell, really.
Exactly.
You would not disagree on that.
But I just think that goes together so well.
Yeah. It's a yin and yang thing. I think we just really respect each other as artists, and I think, especially over this like year of not being doing a lot, we've definitely got, I think, even more in sync with each other in terms of stage presence, even like the way we dress. I think, you know, we've even got matching outfits depending on what the evening's going to be, because we normally gauge if it's a bit more like a Toy Wilcox, the makeup will still be the same, but maybe the clothes will be something else. But, you know, we've got like matching garments. And I think one of the last gigs we played, actually, a really cool place called Percy's. That's towards Wales. People will literally come up to us and saying like, "Oh, are you a man or a woman?" And I think that's really neat in terms of being on stage, where it's just like, because they're saying like, "Oh, you know, are you brother and sister? What's the?" It's like, well, one, it doesn't matter, but two, it's kind of cool that you like sort of wondering about that. But yeah, we're definitely yin and yang, and the music video for Ash was really neat. I'll keep that one short. Basically, we know someone with the Death Proof car from the movie Death Proof. That's where it all spawned from, because that car, I think it didn't even have an engine until we got there, because it was having repairs at the time, and it's filmed mostly in a field with green screen and people like rocking the car. Directed by the same guy who did Pain Meds, a guy called Liam's the director, the film director. It was cool. And actually, fingers crossed, the guy that falls in the cake in Ash, so please, that's a spoiler if you've not seen the music video, he's also in the movie, eating Miss Campbell. So I'm hopefully, won't say what he's doing, but it should be a nice subtle nod to the small percentage of people who are like, I've seen that guy before.
Oh, that's good. I like that. And that is the car from Death Proof, then, is it?
It's not like the car, like the one.
Very...
So I think a few of them were made. I think actually it's the same make, and it was actually pink. Probably like this kind of pink in the background there you see in between. And I think for reasons it was shipped over to the UK. I think it had a car accident. I don't want to think too much about that, but they managed to get full repairs, sprayed it. Then they got the original mould, or the person that moulded the duck on the front to redo that and basically recreate it. This guy, his name's Tom, he recreates movie props all the time. So he's got like one of the motorbikes from Mad Max, the original.
Oh, wow.
And he's even got like weird props from like Ash versus Evil Dead. So he's a go-to guy. And once he said, "Oh yeah, of course you can get the car." I mean, I'd never even been in an American car because I have a tiny little pooty city car. To have this massive fuck off thing was
cool. Massive, aren't they?
Yeah.
I drove one once, and it was like you turn, and the body seems to wait before it turns because they're so heavy and so bouncy. And it's just like, and it was an old one. It was it was an old car, and it was like, I love driving this. Sod the new cars. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, even just sitting in it, it felt like a boat.
Yeah, they're massive.
And maybe that's what you're saying. When you turn, like a boat, you kind of have to wait for it to do its thing.
The wheels, it's turning, but the body size kind of comes a second after. It's almost like a delay.
No,
fantastic experience. They are brilliant cars.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, Ash seems to go down really well. Burn My Head Down again seems to go really well. And I'm not even going to say like, oh, that's my song, that's story. They're all 50-50. Can't even, particularly Burn My Head Down, I actually can't even remember. I think Ash, I may have done the original riff. Well, I did. But then she just like 110% changed it. And I think Burn My Head Down, I think maybe that was mine originally. But again, 10% of it is the original. And Laura's done so much to it, like a ridiculous amount. And again, she may send one that is more synth-based. And again, I would just completely change it up. So they're all our songs.
Well, that's great. I mean, and I like the way you acknowledge that it's 50-50 and there's not like one person. It's a bit like Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher. They're always against each other constantly. This is teamwork, yours, isn't it? It's proper teamwork, and you acknowledge it's teamwork, and that's how a band should be.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something. Laura definitely sings it all because there's no way I'm doing that At the
No,
background.
no, no.
If I've forgotten everything else, she definitely sings everything. That is guaranteed. So don't worry. If you don't like my dulcet tones, you don't need to hear them on the CD.
She's got a very good voice, hasn't she?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
She has. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jason?
Just thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and it's really nice catching up and
Yeah.
finally speaking in person rather than typing.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know the usual spiel of people saying buy my stuff, if you want to sort of help us in any way, just share our music. Like number one, just spend 3 minutes watching a music video and share it. If you want to move up the tier, come and see us live because that'd be epic, and I'd like to say hello. And obviously, if you're not based in the UK and you really want to do something, yeah, buy our t-shirts and CDs, but please just don't push your bank balance. I know it's been a weird couple of years. Just share our music. Just get people to hear it. That's all we want.
Thank you very much, Jason. That's
Pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you.